Îi spunem bun venit și lui Carl McFall, membru al grupului de experți privind impactul transformării digitale a pieței muncii din Uniunea Europeană, Comisia Europeană. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for being here. If you want, you can start your presentation. After that, we can talk.
What I want to illustrate with these, a couple of cuts from a movie we made in the region where I worked for many years to attract and establish the site decision and construction of these two gigantic scientific infrastructures for material science in competition with the large, rich, traditional nations of Europe. I mean, Sweden is kind of famous, but we haven't done anything like that before. I realized when I was coming here and looking at this movie, how much we emphasized the infrastructure. And there is a reason for it. I mean, the infrastructure for mobility that combines smaller and larger cities, in this context, the greater Copenhagen region, becomes a neural network for the transition of intellectual capital. And in the domain of intellectual capital, you have, of course, human capital. The brains, the competences start to interact. Relational capital, where you have the suppliers, the vendors, the social networks you depend on. But then also structural capital, the information, the brand, the data, everything that enables and works 24/7 and enables the human and relational capital to function. And this made me very interested coming to Romania. Doi ani, 2 years here. Well, it's been a little bit of global pandemic, and I'm very fortunate and happy and honored to be here, out of the little COVID isolation box. So I've been in Romania for 2 years. Coming from Sweden, it's the most striking difference, of course, the visible, the infrastructural dimension. And I will address this in 3 ways, because you have a timing aspect in transitional leadership, urban transformation. But then you have the mindset aspect. And then you have the opportunity space. We often look at these indexes where innovation scoreboards, where you have Sweden #1 and they have Romania, Bulgaria there. But you get what you measure, as my old professor said at Lund University. What indexes? Are you measuring the 20th century economy or the future opportunities of the 21st century economy? And I started to love Romania, and it has completely different set and mix and entrepreneurialism that Sweden have. You crashed the system a couple of decades ago. The Nordic countries are in a path dependency somehow of their established negotiations in the parliament and decades of investments. That's a path dependency. And here, in many aspects, you can start fresh. And how long time does it take for urban transformation? Well, I can say in the case of Malmö, they were in pretty deep decline phase in the 90s with the harbor industry and the job market going to Asia in this structural transformation. We had a mayor, he had an urban planner background, Ilmar Reepalu. And I would say it took 10 to 20 years, maybe 15, in the middle of 10 to 20 years. It's not that long time to completely rebuild the city. And I don't mean only rebuild the city in terms of the physical infrastructure and the new activities in the harbor, making it a startup city, connecting Copenhagen, Malmö, the city of Lund, Helsingborg, in this region. It starts with a mindset, and this is maybe my key message here, the mindset. And that's what you have in this little orange arrow there. It's our methodology. Now, when I work here with Transylvania IT Cluster, and together with the cities of Cluj, Timișoara, now Brasov, and Bucharest, and other places here, the methodology, you cannot just come there and implement a new methodology, processes, tools, technology, without first bringing about the understanding, the collective understanding about why are we doing this. And that's all about the mindset. And cultures are different. And here I come to a different historical context of Europe. But that mindset to mind shift, I think that's a key element in how we can collectively understand among the different alternatives in methodologies and tools and technologies, why and what should we choose, right? So it doesn't have to take that long time. Cultivating a new mindset, well, it can take generations. doesn't have to take that long time, though. I think this was another point of the key success in Sweden. We call it consensus building. Yeah, democracy is slow. Takes a bit of time for this consensus building, mobilizing the change makers to get aboard, the other people, where the mayor has a crucial role in terms of place innovation. I mean, the mayor, well, we have mandates periods coming in and out, but you need to really empower and encourage your mayors to act as transformational leaders, because somehow somebody needs to represent the place and to connect this ecosystem for innovation with the different stakeholders, and not the traditional triple helix constellation, right, where you had industry, academia, and governments. In the quadruple helix, you add the change makers, the inventors, the entrepreneurs, the bottom-up processes, or the civil society. Because if you don't have them aboard, you won't that easily take strategy into tactics and operations. And finally, I would like to say something about the opportunity space here in Romania, because you have a fantastic opportunity space. You have such expertise that we don't even have in Sweden when it comes to what the older paradigm was focusing on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math in Eastern Europe. And now the ICT generation. There are statistics we look at in the European Commission where Romania will face a surplus by 2030 in ICT graduates, because adoption rate in public and private sector of these new ICT talents is a bit slow. So here you have to act more quickly, because this also comes into terms of mobility, the opportunity space. I mean, to produce a car in automotives, you had to be Volvo and Volkswagen in the previous century. I mean, at Lund University, we had a group of students in a warehouse garage somewhere in the department who created an entirely new prototype of an electric vehicle, Unity. They created a crowdfunding campaign and brought in 10 million euro, and then got Siemens to, start to mass produce and things like that. It didn't take place at Volvo or Volkswagen. It took place in a little warehouse by a couple of students. They downloaded the open source blueprints that Elon Musk published from Tesla, So new entrants. In these times of digital transformation, so many slots of new entrants, where Romania can completely level up. Not only having multinational companies coming here and use the labor forces, and that money goes abroad. That money doesn't stay within Romania. You have the talent, you have the capital, and you have the resources for innovation. So my key message is you have to connect and coordinate resources to level up the capabilities. And the key in that is mobility. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Carl McFall. You told us that we have to act now, and we need a strategy. For the authorities, local authorities, how does this strategy start?
Well, first of all, as I pointed out, the mayor has a crucial role, and I'm very encouraged and inspired these days to see Aline and Dominic Fritz here as a new sort of transformational leader. I worked a lot with Cluj, where Emil Bock also have been a very sort of crucial transformational leader to take initiatives, because that kind of role in a city connects the different stakeholders and bring in new approaches. It can be a little bit in public sector. I worked a lot with cities myself, and in Sweden, as I say, we have a path dependency. You cannot just start to make experiments. What we do often in Sweden, we create in cities a so-called open innovation platform, where maybe the city is sponsoring like 50%, and together with private sector and academia and the region. And in that budget, on that organizational number, sometimes we call it the budget for failure. Because, I mean, coming from the European Commission also, it's so traditional approaches. It's this upfront planning. If you can do upfront planning, you are doing routinized work. You're not doing innovation, right? But we come from this industrial era 1.0, And now we are in transformational times requiring completely agile methodologies and new approaches, even inventing new approaches to work, because every city has its unique historical context. There is no magic stick like, we often look to Silicon Valley. You have to look at the historical context of the people, the geographical situation, the nodes, the hubs, the connectivity to larger and smaller villages, and there you have to use your brain to create a strategy and put an emphasis on that work. But when doing this strategy, if you don't involve what I will say is already the future taking place right now, the millennials, Generation Alpha, we heard a little bit about generational studies yesterday. They are already shaping the future of our global economy. And where do I see them? Around the boards. You know, we need to build the future with the people who will face the effects of the decisions we are taking today. And we have this consensus building I'm talking about from a Swedish perspective. It takes a little bit of time, but when we co-create the strategy, a little bit abstract, and we have a consensus, it's so much faster to roll it out in tactics and operative activities. So the multi-helix open innovation approach in the City Hall, I would encourage that.
Carl McFall, how much is this digitalization and how much it is human resource, budget, strategy, and if we can start the two of them in the same time, I mean the digitalization and also the strategy for transport.
I mean, here, as I talked a little bit also, the opportunity space for new entrants. I mean, digital is soft. It's not hard. You don't have to have this machine and infrastructure. It's mainly about the human capital. And here, Romania is great when it comes to ICT and the STEM workforces here. You have such an opportunity space to become the new entrants in the digital economy, leapfrog from the previous paradigm into this AI economy. And I mean, digital transformation is a GPT, general purpose technology. It's a transversal affecting all the verticals, and of course, transport and mobility. And having lived here for 2 years, I was living first in Timișoara, and then I started to say, maybe I should go to Cluj. Well, I put my Volvo in Swedia. So I go to the train station, Gara Nord, and it was some paperwork there. It took like 7-8 hours. My friends in Cluj, we call it the hunger train. I mean, the connectivity, I just showed you this movie. The connectivity of brains in a neural network of cities, it has multiplicator effects on the intellectual capital, multiplicator effects. And it's so important also to shift away from this triple helix top-down thinking that we come from in the previous centuries to involve the NGOs like Urbanized Hub, Transylvania IT clusters. In Sweden, they are core funded often by the municipality, the region, the nation somehow, right? Here, they stand by themselves and they have to work bottom up. But I love the entrepreneurialism by necessity in Romania. It's such a powerful force. And when it comes to digital, to make things smooth and easy for the well-being of citizens and customers. I mean, you jump on the transport, you have an app, it's quick and easy, right? It has multiplicator effects on the system in terms of prosperity. And you have all the competence here. So it's about, maybe the next event, I would like to push, we have to invite some mayor from Bucharest. I know maybe there is 10 mayors, but there has to be a top mayor. Create a little bit of edge and don't have this social fear in Romania. Dare to challenge in the room, speak out a little bit. You don't have to be the expert. We need to get the bubbles and the boiling going in the discussion to advance on these things, because you have great resources in terms of innovation here, but it's about to connect and coordinate the resources to level up the capabilities. You have everything here. So it's a strategy, it's a systemic mechanism behind. That's where it needs a little bit of work here, and that's why I'm here to assist.
That's a good news for us, for Romania. Thank you so much. Mulțumesc foarte mult tuturor pentru această discuție extrem de interesantă.
In the southernmost part of Scandinavia, where the countries of Denmark and Sweden meet in the Bay area of Öresund, you'll find one of the most dynamic and expansive regions in Europe. This is a place offering that rare combination of a flourishing business environment with a high quality of life. Being top-ranked in international studies on innovation and creativity, Öresund, with its 3.7 million people coming from all over the world, is an attractive area with large investments in business, academia, developing professional careers and cultural life. When visiting this region, you will most likely be one of the more than 20 million passengers arriving yearly at Copenhagen International Airport, the largest airport in the Nordic countries. In 2020, the Fehmarn Belt fixed link between Denmark and Germany is scheduled for completion. This will connect the Öresund region to Hamburg and add yet another link to the integration of the Baltic Sea region. A 20-minute journey by train from Copenhagen takes you over the Öresund Bridge to Sweden's third largest city, Malmö. Southern Sweden has an international reputation for top quality research, and the vision is to become Europe's hotspot for science and innovation. The region is home to a number of world-class universities and science parks, offering a fertile environment in which companies can evolve and grow. Just a train stop from Malmö is the ancient student city of Lund, with its university founded in 1666. There is a well-established interplay between public organizations, university and industry. The city of Lund has a rich history of achievements within research and development. Entrepreneurs can transfer their knowledge and innovations into business at the Ideon Science Park, where incubators and startups interact with globally leading companies like Tetra Pak, Sony and Ericsson.
We worked with Sony Ericsson back in 2003, and RIM acquired us 2010 because they found we had design and the competence of the user and a technological competence of understanding how microprocessors and mobile phones worked. And the other thing they acquired us for was the process and the philosophy of we worked. We work in a very agile manner, not having a sort of a heavy process or a sort of discussion centered, but a very production centered. And we also cherish craftsmen, believing people who create. So the creators and the artists are the people who should be cherished. And over the times of developing TAT, one of the things we found that was very helpful was that we could find mentors and advisors and board members and recruiting really good people very easy.
With an international partnership, the construction of 2 world-leading research facilities is taking place right here in southern Sweden. The ESS and Max 4 will change our lives, shedding new light on everything from producing and transporting energy more efficiently to manufacturing eco-friendly products, from developing new medicines to growing replacement body parts. A science village located around the facilities offer a one-stop shop for innovation support when using this research infrastructure. Medicon Valley, spanning eastern Denmark and southern Sweden, is one of Europe's strongest life science clusters and home to about 350 biotechnology and medical technology companies. Southern Sweden plays a leading role in climate awareness and sustainable urban development. International delegations from all over the world are visiting us here to view our architectural solutions and learn about the region's progress in this area.
This is completely unique. You can't find this environment anywhere else in the world. I mean, find a big airport close to a big city where you can afford buying a house which is close to good nature. Here, plentiful. And that means that if you're an entrepreneur here, you can get a quality of life which is incomparable with San Francisco in that sense. You can bike to work, you can go out in the forest and go sort of mountain biking, you meet people on the cafes on the streets, and you have super high-tech companies all mixed together. And again, 20 minutes to an international airport.
Whether you want to live a city life or live by the sea, it's rarely more than 30 minutes to work. Southern Sweden offers that perfect combination of a work-life balance, the best of both worlds.